Hello and welcome to the next tutorial for the Ultimate Turn-Based Battle System for Unity. In this video, we are going to take a look at the Create Enemy Team tab inside the custom Ultimate Turn-Based Battle System window. In the last tutorial, we created individual enemies, but an enemy by itself does not define a full encounter yet. To actually decide which enemies appear together in battle, we need enemy teams. An enemy team is a group of enemies that can be used by an encounter. It defines which enemy prefabs are part of the battle, what level each enemy has, how much EXP and money each enemy drops, and which items or equipment can be rewarded after the battle. So while the Create Enemy tab is used to create individual enemy characters, the Create Enemy Team tab is used to combine those enemies into actual battle groups. For example, you could create a small forest enemy team with 2 slimes and 1 wolf. You could create a cave enemy team with bats, spiders, and a stronger monster. Or you could create a boss enemy team with 1 large boss and 2 smaller minions. For this tutorial, we will stay on the Create Enemy Team tab. The Create Enemy Team tab creates an enemy team data asset. This asset stores a list of enemy entries. Each enemy entry contains an enemy prefab, a level, EXP drop, money drop, item drops, and equipment drops. The enemy prefab defines which enemy appears. The level defines how strong that enemy is in this team. The rewards define what the player can receive after defeating that enemy. Now let's go through the tab from top to bottom. At the top of the tab, you can find the Load Enemy Team button and the Clear button. The Load Enemy Team button allows you to load an existing enemy team data asset back into the editor. This is useful when you want to edit an enemy team you already created. When an enemy team is loaded, all enemy entries are restored. This includes the assigned enemy prefabs, their levels, EXP drops, money drops, item drops, and equipment drops. The Clear button removes all current entries from the editor and resets the tab back to a new enemy team state. This is useful when you want to start creating a new enemy team from scratch. Next we have the Enemy Team section. This is where all enemies in the current team are displayed. Each enemy entry is shown inside its own box. This makes it easier to see which settings belong to which enemy. To add a new enemy to the team, click the Add Enemy button. This creates a new empty enemy entry. Inside the enemy entry, the first field is the enemy prefab field. Here you assign the enemy build prefab that was created by the Create Enemy tab. This should be the finished enemy prefab, not just an enemy data asset. The prefab is important because it contains all runtime components the battle system needs, such as the enemy data holder, level system AI, HP system AI, MP system AI, etc. When you assign an enemy prefab, the editor also checks if it has an enemy data holder component. If the prefab has a valid enemy data holder and an assigned enemy data asset, the editor displays the enemy data name below the prefab field. This helps you confirm that you selected the correct enemy prefab. Below the enemy prefab field, you can set the enemy level. This level defines which level this enemy will have when it appears as part of this enemy team. For example, you could use the same slime prefab in multiple enemy teams. In an early forest enemy team, the slime could be level 2. In a later dungeon enemy team, the same slime could be level 15. Because enemy HP, MP, stats, and skill unlocks are level-based, changing the level can make the same enemy prefab behave differently. A higher level version of the same enemy can have more HP, more MP, stronger stats, and access to higher level skills. This makes enemy teams very flexible. You do not need to create a completely new enemy prefab for every difficulty version of an enemy. Instead, you can reuse the same enemy prefab and set a different level inside the enemy team. Next, you can set the EXP drop. The EXP drop defines how much experience this enemy gives when defeated. For example, a weak enemy could give 10 EXP, a stronger enemy could give 50 EXP, a boss could give a much larger amount. The reward system can use these values after battle to calculate how much EXP the party receives. Next, you can set the money drop. The money drop defines how much money this enemy gives when defeated. For example, a small enemy could give a small amount of money. A treasure enemy or boss could give much more. This value can be used by the result and reward systems to add money to the player after battle. Now let's talk about item drops. Each enemy entry has its own item drop section. This means drops are defined per enemy, not only for the whole team. To add an item drop, click the Add Item Drop button. This creates a new item drop entry. Each item drop entry has an item field and a drop chance percentage. In the item field, you assign the item data asset that can be dropped. For example, this could be a potion, antidote, mana herb, crafting material, quest item, or any other item from your project. The drop chance percentage defines how likely it is that this item will drop when the enemy is defeated. For example, a drop chance of 100% means the item will always drop. A drop chance of 50% means it has a half chance to drop. A drop chance of 10% means it is a rarer drop. The drop chance value is clamped between 0 and 100% when the enemy team is saved. If you no longer need an item drop, you can click the Delete Drop button inside that item drop entry. This removes the item drop from the enemy. Now let's talk about equipment drops. Each enemy entry also has its own equipment drop section. To add an equipment drop, click the Add Equipment Drop button. This creates a new equipment drop entry. Each equipment drop entry has an equipment field and a drop chance percentage. In the equipment field, you assign the equipment data asset that can be dropped. For example, this could be a sword, shield, armor, accessory, or any equipment type used by your project. The drop chance percentage works the same way as item drops. A higher percentage makes the equipment more likely to drop. A lower percentage makes it rarer. For example, a boss could have a 100% chance to drop a special weapon. A normal enemy could have a 5% chance to drop rare armor. If you no longer need an equipment drop, you can click the Delete Drop button inside that equipment drop entry. This removes the equipment drop from the enemy. Because item drops and equipment drops are stored on each enemy entry, you can create very specific reward setups. For example, a slime could drop a potion, a wolf could drop a fang item, a skeleton could drop a rusty sword, a boss could drop a unique piece of equipment. This makes the enemy team system useful not only for building battles, but also for controlling rewards and progression. If you want to remove an enemy from the team, click the Delete Enemy button inside that enemy entry. This removes the entire enemy entry from the team. That includes the enemy prefab, level, EXP drop, money drop, item drops, and equipment drops for that entry. Now let's talk about saving the enemy team. At the bottom of the tab, you can click Save Enemy Team. When you save the enemy team, the editor creates or updates an enemy team data asset. This asset is saved in the enemy team's database folder. When saving, the editor copies all current enemy entries into the asset. It also makes sure values stay safe. Enemy levels are clamped to at least 1. EXP drops and money drops are clamped to at least 0. Item and equipment drop chances are clamped between 0 and 100%. This helps prevent invalid values from being saved. If you save over an existing enemy team asset, the existing asset is overwritten with the current settings. If you save to a new file, a new enemy team data asset is created. Now let's also talk about the encounter component. Creating an enemy team defines which enemies belong together, but the enemy team itself does not start a battle on its own. To actually launch a battle, the enemy team is used by an encounter component. The encounter component is placed on a game object in your scene. This game object can represent a visible enemy, an invisible trigger, a story event, a demo hub button, or any other object that should start a battle. The most important field on the encounter component is the enemy team data field. Here you assign the enemy team data asset that you created in the Create Enemy Team tab. When the encounter starts, the component sends this enemy team data to the battle state machine. The battle state machine then knows which enemies should appear in the battle. This means the basic connection is very simple. First, you create individual enemies in the Create Enemy tab. Then you combine those enemies into an enemy team in the Create Enemy Team tab. Then you assign that enemy team to an encounter component. And when the encounter starts, the battle system uses that enemy team to populate the battle. At the top of the encounter component, there is also an encounter ID. The encounter ID is a unique identifier for this encounter. If no custom ID is entered, the component uses the game object name as the ID. This is especially useful for systems like the Demo Hub, where an encounter can be found and started after loading a scene. For normal game use, you may not always need to think much about the encounter ID, but it is useful when another system needs to start a specific encounter by name. Next, the encounter component has the required enemy team data reference. This field must be assigned. If no enemy team data is assigned, the encounter cannot start a battle. When start battle is called, the component checks if the battle state machine exists in the scene. It also checks if an enemy team data asset has been assigned. If something important is missing, it logs an error instead of starting the battle. This helps you find setup problems quickly. The encounter component also has optional battle presentation settings. One of these is the battle screen field. This allows the encounter to override the battle screen when the battle starts. For example, most encounters in a forest area could use the normal forest battle screen, but a special story encounter in the same area could use a different battle screen, maybe with a unique background, layout, or boss arena setup. If a battle screen is assigned on the encounter component, the battle state machine uses that screen when the battle starts. If no battle screen is assigned, the battle system can continue using the currently available battle screen. There is also a replace completely option. This controls how the battle screen override should be handled. If replace completely is enabled, the assigned battle screen replaces the existing battle screen more permanently. This means future battles will continue using that new battle screen unless another encounter provides a different one. If replace completely is disabled, the override can be used more like a temporary battle screen change. This is useful for one-time story battles or special encounters where you want a unique presentation without permanently replacing the standard battle screen for the area. The encounter component also has a split EXP option. This controls how experience points are distributed after battle. If split EXP is enabled, the battle EXP can be divided between the participating heroes. If split EXP is disabled, each recipient can receive the full EXP amount depending on the battle result setup. This gives you control over how fast heroes level up and how rewards should feel in your game. At the bottom of the component there is an on battle start event. This Unity event is invoked immediately before the battle begins. You can use this event for custom logic. For example, you could trigger music changes, screen transitions, cut-in animations, dialogue, quest updates, sound effects, or any custom setup that should happen right before the battle starts. This makes the encounter component flexible because it does not only start the battle, it can also be used as a hook for your own game logic. When start battle is called on the encounter component, several things happen. First, the component finds the battle state machine in the scene. Then it checks if the assigned enemy team data exists. After that, it sends the enemy team data to the battle state machine. It also sends the split EXP setting. Then it applies the replace completely setting. If a battle screen override is assigned, it tells the battle state machine to use that battle screen. Then it invokes the on battle start event. And finally it calls start battle on the battle state machine. So the encounter component is the bridge between your scene and the battle system. The enemy team defines the enemies and rewards. The battle screen defines the visual battle presentation. The encounter combines these settings and tells the battle state machine to begin the battle. In the next tutorials we will continue with the other tabs of the Ultimate Turn-Based Battle System window and look at how they work together to create complete turn-based RPG battles. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials and updates about the Ultimate Turn-Based Battle System.